Objectives for Munster. I mean, they're very, very workaday compared to Leinster's objectives.
Yeah, they're in a totally different spot here and now. I mean, they're like we're talking about transition. They're not in transition. They haven't won a trophy since 2011. But the shining light with Munster at the moment is there is a very decent crop of good quality young players like Tom Ahern, like Adogbo, like Jack Crowley. Calvin Nash has come on in leaps and bounds. It's a question, and they have a new management team in there as well. I think there's a recognition that they need to be given time, but I'd like to see from a wider perspective what Munster's plan is for the next 3 to 4 years, because the young fellas alone won't do it. You've got to support them with more experienced players. They seem
John Ryan coming back today, we hear, but I know that won't solve everything.
Yeah, but that's a short-term thing. Yeah. And, a lot of people would have felt, how was John Ryan left go? Like, they have a tight head. They have a crisis at tight head. To be fair, young James French was on the bench. He's a loose head who's converted to tight head. I think Graham Rowntree felt he couldn't throw him in against Andrew Porter.
Sure. But in a way, Joel, that's the periphery of it. The main objective is top 8, and there's no guarantee, which is unbelievable. We're talking about Munster here. They're 11 points after 6 games in 11th place.
Well, the bottom line, there's 8 qualification places for Europe. 4 of them are gone by virtue of the plate, the natural qualification. So you've only 4 left. And from a financial perspective, and Munster are under pressure financial enough as it is, if you don't get into the Champions Cup, that's a severe
different story
blow
altogether. Munster, objectives.
Yeah, well, look, I would say I agree with everything Donal said. It's that at the moment we don't know actually where they actually are. We know they've been hamstrung by a horrendous injury list. We know they've had bad performance. They've a new coaching team in. There's a lot of variables there that does not to stabilise the ship. I suppose what they can look for is can they get to a point where we see a progression in their game, which means they're going the right direction. I would argue, and it's harsh to say, that we haven't quite seen that yet. We've seen them pitch up, throw their bodies on the line, which is expected. But they couldn't break Leinster down last Saturday. Their scores came from 2 penalties, from poor discipline by Leinster, and a ball that was thrown to go and hacked up the field.
You can deconstruct it that way. What about Ulster this coming weekend? I mean, there's another surely it'll show everybody.
Well, this is the thing. If we get a good day next weekend and both teams can play rugby, this will be the great exposure, because we know what Ulster have at the moment. They have one of the best backlines in the league. They're pretty much very confident in themselves and have a decent pack who will match Munster up. So it'll be all on. And if Munster can tumble Ulster next weekend, it will be a big statement, I think. I don't think anyone expects them to tumble Leinster, and it could have got even uglier than it was in the end. But I would have to say that this one for me could be a watershed game. If they can beat Ulster, big performance, get all the jobs done, they'll have made a statement of intent for the confidence of the squad as well, and given their injury situation, it could be one that turns the season. Yeah, but if it was to go the other way, it's a long, painful road.
Then 2 wins out of 7 with 11 left, which means they have to win 8 or 9 of them.
Well, that's a huge, but the worry that I would have for Munster, they were always going to get up for last Saturday's match on the back of their previous visit to the Aviva, if you remember. It was a Leinster second-stroke third team.
It was slightly embarrassing from their point of view.
It was. So they were always going to get up for it, but you can't be up like that every week. Therefore, you've got to rely on your natural game and your creative spark and all that type of thing. So if they're not right against Ulster, immediately they're going to be back in trouble again, and that's the challenge for them.